Hello, BookTube. I have another Irish Stew video for you where we talk about a handful of the things that are on my lonely, frail, old, shut-in mind. And see whether or not any of them are of interest to you. I can't imagine that would be so, but a lot of you have said the verdict on these Irish Stew videos is that you not only want me to keep doing them, but that you'd like every section of them to be longer. 4 sections to every Irish Stew video. The world, the U.S., where I come from, the United States, broader YouTube, BookTube, and then me. I guess that's 5 segments, isn't it? Well, however many it is. I'm not all that up with the math, but a number of you have said not only that you want me to continue with these Irish Stew videos, but that you want each segment to be longer and to have more things in it. I don't know what's going on there. So this is the biggest surprise YouTube-wise that I've had in 2025. The fact that you all like these things, or that a lot of you do. So we're just gonna keep going. So we will start with news of the broader world, and here there's one story that caught my eye. It is, I think, far more important than any other. Who knows how it will be reported on? Again, I keep mentioning that because we live in an era where you have to be more careful and exhaustive than ever in consuming your news. You have to do a lot more work with that than you ever had to do before. Gone are the days when you could get back home from a hard day of work and just watch Walter Cronkite. Those of you who were born in the 21st century aren't even going to know who I'm talking about, much less what it meant. What it meant. You can Google the person, Walter Cronkite, but you will never be able to Google what it meant, how it felt. You were busy concentrating on your career. You were busy concentrating on your family. You were busy concentrating on your passions and your hobbies all day long. You read the newspaper in the morning, your local newspaper, or like me, you read your 4 local newspapers in the morning. No city in America has 4 newspapers anymore, and all the ones that they do have are all wire services controlled by one man, where you're reading what he wants you to read. No individual, no iconoclastic individual reporting, almost none. And nobody reads anyway. Nobody reads newspapers anyway. So, but once upon a time, that's what everybody did. Not just me. Everybody did that. They read the paper in the morning over breakfast. Then they went about their day. And the day left you alone because you didn't have a phone with you. So you were doing your stuff. You were doing your day. You were doing all sorts of things. And then when the day was over, and of course no one was barbaric enough to expect you to work at night or expect you to be contactable once you'd left work. You weren't at work anymore. So what if your boss calls you, you're going to say, what, did your house catch fire? Or what? Why on earth are you calling me at home? It's why on earth are you calling me at home? You would go home and you would watch Walter Cronkite. That's the way it was. You would watch Walter Cronkite tell you the news of the day. Because that was his job. That was what he was doing all day while you were doing your job. He was sorting through wire reports and the reporters from his network in order to figure out what to do, a show to put together that would give you the news of the day that you needed to know, the news of the day that you had missed. Because you weren't reading the newspaper during the day and you weren't listening to the news during the day. So I don't. That was a long digression to say that you have to pay more attention than ever to how you gather and sift your news. You have to be nobody's fool, which is going to come up in this episode of Irish Stew. It's going to come up when you are somebody's fool, when you are biddable, when you don't do your diligence with the news. You all have to be Walter Cronkite now, which wasn't true for ever and ever, but it is now, because almost all news is ideologically driven now. Lying, in other words, in some way or other lying. So I don't know how this world story is going to get portrayed in the media. And that is that Russian drones invaded Polish airspace. Military drones from Russia invaded Polish airspace and had to be shot down. I don't know if I need to stress how important that is. This is 2 days after Russian drone strikes hit the capital of Ukraine, hit the Capitol building of Ukraine, set stories of it on fire. This is days later. Russian military drones were shot down over Poland. I don't know how strongly I need to stress the importance of that, but the importance of that is that Vladimir Putin wants to conquer Poland. And every other country in Eastern Europe, and maybe not so Eastern Europe. He wants to conquer these countries. He wants to send in his troops and militarily conquer those territories to make them vassal states of Russia. He has stated this desire many, many times, and he is not being stopped by the only country that can stop him. So days after we learned that the Capitol building of Ukraine has been hit, we don't know. I said that symbolically means a lot. Symbolically, that means that Ukraine is losing the war, is on the brink of losing the war. I don't know. I doubt that that's technically true. I'm pretty sure the Ukrainian military will fight to the last man. But it's a powerful symbol. And as long as we're dealing in powerful symbols, Russian drones shot down over Polish airspace is another powerful symbol of what we're talking about here. Of the people who complacently talked about Ukraine and Georgia and wherever else being more or less interchangeable collateral damage on the fringe of my area of interest, but that Poland would be a different thing. Well, okay, it's Poland now. So anyway, that's the world. Then we can stop her down to the U.S., and the story in the U.S. is 11 people on a boat in international waters obliterated by U.S. artillery fire. 11 people murdered by the United States, by the Trump government. The Trump government says that they were drug runners headed for the United States. The Trump administration, in its second iteration here, in the second administration of Donald Trump, has not yet told the truth about anything. Anything at all. Anything, even in a tiny, small detail. Did you park there? No, I didn't. Here's a picture. This regime has not told the truth about anything at all. No matter how trivial, no matter how visually obvious, they have lied about literally everything that they have commented on in any way. So, you would have to be a prize-winning fool to believe anything they say about that boat and those 11 dead people. But you can know some things for sure, which is that the Coast Guard cutters in the area, one of which was only 20 minutes away from that boat, Coast Guard's extremely skilled at stopping suspicious boats and disarming them and bringing their crew in for arrest and sentencing. The Coast Guard is extremely skilled at that. That's one of the things they do best. They do it better than anybody. One of their ships was at most 20 minutes at top speed away from that vessel, and that vessel was nowhere near America. As far as we know, they were never even notified, much less called in, and couldn't do it for some reason. The Coast Guard doesn't not do things that it tries to do. It succeeds in doing things that it tries to do. They weren't even asked. Everybody on board was instantly killed. We have no idea who they were. No journalist is going to be allowed near the wreckage to find out if there's, I don't know, the residue of the drugs they were supposedly running. No knowledge of anything like that. And when the vice president of the United States was accused on social media of that being what it is, which is a war crime, even if they were running drugs into America, you don't summarily execute them. That's still a crime. When the vice president was told that that was a war crime, he said he didn't care what it was. Just in case the crowd out there that says Vance would be an improvement over Trump. This is just murder psychopathy. And I would argue, of course you know I'm going to argue, I could be wrong about this. This is my interpretation of events for the last 10 years. My interpretation is that the reason that the Trump regime is acting this way, the reason why a member of the Trump regime can suggest on social media that everyone who is of Hispanic descent in America should be arrested and put in the concentration camp in the Florida Everglades, all of them, 64,000 people, that they should all be arrested just because of their skin color. The reason why she can do that and without any fear of any kind of prosecution or losing her job. The reason why the vice president can say, I don't care if it's a war crime, I don't care at all. Not only that, but we're going to do it again. We're going to keep doing it. Is because they know they're not leaving power. In my opinion, in my interpretation, that's why they can act this way. Because they know they're not leaving power. So what they're doing is essentially just shutting up a barking dog. A minor annoyance. But that's all. But either way, it happened. And the way you can read that story, 11 people killed in a boat, the way you can read that story is picture that they were party excursionists from Connecticut. 11 people on board. 11 people is way more than you would have if you were running drugs. On a boat that small, it's way more people than you would have. They certainly were not running drugs. But even if they were, picture it's 11 people on a party junket from Connecticut. In other words, picture that it's 11 white people. Americans. We have no idea if the people on that ship were American or not. We have no idea that they were Venezuelan. We have no idea, and we don't know anything about them at all, except what the Trump administration tells us. And as I said, the Trump administration lies about literally everything. Literally everything, even the stuff that doesn't matter at all. The stuff that is totally inconsequential. Is the Truman balcony on the north side or the east side of the White House? They'll say the wrong side, and when they're contradicted with a map, they'll say it's fake news. So once you have a track record like that, the standing assumption should be that the one thing you shouldn't believe about any incident is what they tell you. Since all they've done is lie. They lie, as I've said before, at an absolutely insane level. It's insane how much they lie. So I think the one thing we can know for sure about that boat that was blasted to pieces and filmed, of course, so that Pete Hegseth can watch it over and over and over again, is that if the Trump administration says that it was drug runners on their way to America, that is false. Every element of that is false. I doubt there'll be an investigation. How could there be? It was in international waters. Who is going to send a team of reporters to go and look? The New York Times? The New York Times is fascist friendly. They want a fascist takeover of the country because they think they will be exempt from what will happen then. They think if they toady enough, they'll be exempt. They won't be. But anyway, that's the U.S. is that Donald Trump murdered 11 people. And then we can move on to YouTube, to broader YouTube. And here I have two things. One is connected. Actually, they're both connected to MAGA, to Donald Trump. One is the prevalence of videos on YouTube of interviews with farmers here in the United States who are facing immediate bankruptcy. MAGA farmers. Farmers who have Trump's face painted on their barn. Farmers who have 5, not 1, not 2, but 5 gigantic Trump flags flying from the back of their truck. People who have Trump merchandise, Trump coins, Trump hats, Trump t-shirts, and who are going to be out of business because not only have Trump's tariffs ruined their whole enterprise, but Trump's Department of the Interior has cut back on their subsidies or cut them out completely. So they're going to be destroyed. These MAGA farmers are going to be destroyed. They are going to be, all 8 of them, selling the house at pennies on the dollar and living in an apartment above the general store in town. And maybe trying to find spare work, paper route, hemming dresses, something like that. Misery, in other words. A family tradition, sometimes going back generations, being destroyed by them voting against their own self-interest and getting exactly what they voted for. And there are all sorts of videos all over YouTube, commentators urging us that now is not the time to gloat. These are votes we can win back. There aren't going to be any more votes. There's not going to be any more free elections in this country. And it is definitely a time to gloat. Definitely. Those people got what they deserved. They got what they voted for. The reason you should gloat over their misery is because they're not alone. We're also getting what they voted for. So they're not innocent at all. So that was one kind of video that I've been seeing in the last 24 hours that has been making me smile. I want these people to suffer because I'm going to suffer because of them. Because Boston is going to have armed unbadged, masked thugs on every street corner in a week, 10 days at the most. Illegal. Can't do it. Can't do a surge of ICE agents, can't send the Army, can't send the National Guard, can't do any of that without the government's permission and the mayor's permission, and you don't have either. But Massachusetts is a special case because both the governor and the mayor are women. So Trump is going to move right in because when you're a star, they let you do it. And that's the result of those MAGA farmers. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm taking those videos with a good deal of grim smiling. And that's one element that I was looking at. And the other thing is far less serious and more of a brush fire, which is the world's foremost idiot, Joe Rogan, a professional idiot, someone whose multi-million-dollar bottom line rests on him being an idiot, which would be fine on its own. I wouldn't so much care about that, but another element of his grift is to make people into idiots. And who knows how much damage he's done to the world in that regard. But there was an obviously AI video of Tim Walz, and he saw it, fell for it, and immediately started going on about, how this is just awful, this is so unbecoming and whatnot. His producer pointed out to him in real time, dude, that's obviously AI. That's obviously not real. And he said, no, it isn't. No, it's real. Oh, that's totally real. When it was demonstrated to him in real time that the video he was looking at, that a small child could have told was AI, was in fact AI, he did not hesitate at all. He didn't blink. He moved immediately to, well, if it was real, it would be really bad. So all my ranting still holds. This guy has millions of people who listen to him, and millions of young men who emulate him. He is the public god of all of the demographic that I used to love. Young men between the ages of 18 and 25, these famously aimless, biddable young men. Joe Rogan is the public god. They worship two gods. They all claim a revanchist Christianity. Christ is king. Christ is on his throne. But they don't worship Christ. They're not Christians. They have two gods. One they can talk about, and one they can't. The one they can talk about is Joe Rogan, and the one they can't is Andrew Tate. But it's worship in both cases. Not only because it abets their drug addiction, but also because it abets their worldview. And they're all watching this, thinking, what do they draw from the fact that he was corrected in real time about being fooled by a childish AI and thought nothing of it, continued on with the points he was making, instead of saying, oh, that isn't real. Oh, okay. Well, I was wrong then. Instead of doing that, he just kept right on with his rant. And what do all of those young men get from the fact that they watched that happen in real time? That it doesn't really matter what's real and what's not. Which I think you could agree is a pretty dangerous lesson for people to take away who are going to be running the world in 10 years. Anyway, we can move on from there to BookTube. I watch a lot of BookTube. This is the section that most of you have been saying you wish were longer, that I was just doing a lot more of the BookTube videos that I watched recently. Here I want to mention just two. I feel bad about that because everyone has been mentioning these Irish Tube videos, has been saying this is the section you wish were longer, that I would talk about 10 BookTube videos. I understand that. I understand that impulse because BookTube is good people and a refuge from the rest of the stuff that I'm talking about. But I want to mention just two videos. Claudia at Spinster's Library did a great video. I will try to remember to link to it down below, where she replaced her screen time with book time for an entire week. So the equivalent of a popular thing on YouTube of a subject for videos, which is digital detox, where she looked at the screen time that your devices will now helpfully tell you about. They'll tell you how much screen time you have. She looked at that and thought, well, how much of that screen time is necessary screen time? I mean, you're looking at a screen for work. You're looking at a screen for reading and whatnot, or looking at the news or whatnot. But then there's idle screen time, which it doesn't break things down, but you know that a large chunk of that must be idle scrolling. She targeted her idle screen time and replaced it with books. Print and paper books. And it's remarkable. Those kinds of videos are always remarkable. It made me wonder right away about all the rest of you. Have you ever tried a digital detox? There are all kinds of videos like that on YouTube, but to see one via BookTuber was especially interesting. I don't so much worry about digital detox myself because I have something that some people in the 20th century had. No one in the 21st century has it anymore. It is an alien concept, so I often have to append it with a definition. I have something called self-control. I can control myself, which means that I can see an activity and say, I'm not going to do that. I'm choosing not to do that. I'm going to choose to do this instead. I know. It's all mumbo jumbo too. If you were born in the 21st century, then what I'm saying now is gibberish to you. But nevertheless, once upon a time, there was such a thing as self-control. So you weren't. Now the only control on your actions is being exercised on you by billionaires. But once upon a time, you could exercise control of your own actions. So I myself look at digital detox videos with a kind of indulgent smile. I find them very interesting on a psychological level, not really on a self-help level, because if I think that I'm spending too much screen time away from reading, then I put down my screen and start reading. And I put down all screens at midnight anyway. So, but I thought that was fascinating, so I'll leave a link to it. And then the other BookTube video I want to mention, Liam at Liam's Lyceum does a regular video where he talks about his most read authors of the year. He goes down the stats of his authors, and that's fascinating on its own. I love videos like that anyway. And during these videos, Liam always tosses off summary judgments about some of those authors, and some of those summary judgments are always fascinating. And he did that in his latest video of this kind. I'll leave a link to it down below. At one point, it was just a little thing. It wasn't the subject of his video at all, but boy, oh boy, did it resonate with me. He mentioned Brandon Sanderson. Because, of course, if you're a fantasy tuber, then, Brandon Sanderson is going to come up in your reading stats. And mentioned something that I have thought about Brandon Sanderson forever and just not ever quite put it so bluntly, so correctly and directly. Where Liam said that he thinks that Brandon Sanderson writes as though his readers were dumb. I had never thought of that in such explicit terms before, and that is absolutely true. It's absolutely true. That I love moments like that when I'm watching BookTube videos, especially because I'm watching people talk about books, about my own life. And every once in a while, somebody will say something like that just completely resonates, where you might not agree, you might be a big Brandon Sanderson fan, but there's always been something about Brandon Sanderson that bothered me, and that's exactly what it is. He writes not dumb prose. He writes prose as if he thinks you are dumb. I just loved it. It was just tossed off, but I loved it. And then that's all for BookTube, I'm afraid. The BookTube section can get longer. But then we'll move on to me. We'll finish off with me. And with me, today, the subject is tech, which is fraught, I know. I know. It used to be a lot more fraught. David Murphy cured me of... he got me off a weird tech bypath that I was on. He got me back to the main road just by common sense, just by talking common sense. Why go on eBay and get a $90 10-year-old Chromebook just because it's $90 when it's going to be full? Even if it's fully functional, it's going to come to you loaded with limitations. There are going to be a ton of things you can't do on it. Eventually, you're going to get frustrated. Eventually, I would get frustrated, and then I would look on eBay for a $50 Chromebook or a $70 Chromebook, to the point where those and older MacBooks, I've got a ton of them, because I think tech is expensive. I don't need my tech for all that much, so why spend a lot of money on it? David Murphy got me away from that road by saying, spend money on it and only it, so that you don't have piles of tech hanging around that you're never even touching anymore. That is wasteful. And you hate waste. At least you say you do. So I have adopted that. I don't want anybody thinking that I'm backsliding. I have adopted that. I spent real money on a MacBook. In fact, looking back, I honestly think I could have spent even more money on a MacBook. It is the piece of tech that I use by far the most. I got a MacBook Air with the new Apple chip and plenty of memory. But looking back on it, I think I could have got a much more powerful MacBook Pro. And in a few years, when it's time for me to upgrade, that's what I will do. I will get a MacBook Pro. I will get a much more powerful device. Maybe even, do MacBook Pros have more ports? The MacBook Air has one port. It has a USB-C port. It has two of them, but they're exactly the same. But anyway, I spent real money on the MacBook Air. I spent real money on an iPad, a larger iPad, a full-sized iPad. What the hell? I spent real money on an iPad mini. Just because I love the form factor, and I was curious to know if it would supplant an e-reader, and it often does. It's lighter than any e-reader that I have, and sharper and brighter and clearer, and I don't suffer from the blue light eye strain that a lot of people feel when they look at screens for too long, lighted screen, LCD screens for too long. So I spent real money on those three things: an iPad mini, and the MacBook. And of course, I have a Kindle, which is not money. It doesn't. Those are cheap, and that has worked. That has cured me of the eBay itch, the itch to go and get bargain tech. So that's not what I'm talking about here when I say that the me part of the program is tech. What I'm talking about is accessories for the iPads, because I have this weird desire that every device that I have become at least capable of what the BroTube tech channels refer to as productivity. I have this weird desire for that to be true, even if I don't use them that way. I want them to be able to be productive. I want to be able to work on them if, God forbid, something were to happen immediately to my MacBook, where it didn't slowly degenerate in use as it got older, but rather stopped working. Would I be able to do work on my other devices? So I'm worried that this is going to start playing something again. I don't know why it did. It's not supposed to. Here, let's find out why. Oh, well, no, I do know why. It's, I do know why. It's because of YouTube. I don't know if you've noticed this. YouTube has made it almost impossible to stop playing videos. It's like 3 different commands that you have to give it to stop playing a video. It used to be that if you turn the machine off, it would stop. But it doesn't anymore. It keeps going. But you take the iPad, can you make this into a rudimentary computer? So I spent, again, real money on the iPad Magic Keyboard from Apple, where the thing magnetically attaches here, and you've got a keyboard with a trackpad. And I haven't fallen in love with using this way. When you have it in the totally upright position like this, so the iPad is just flat like a screen, okay, fine. When you have it tilted back at all like that, which sometimes you want to do, the bottom part of the iPad is right at the top layer of these keys, and I keep bumping into it. In addition to which, this is all that it does. It doesn't lay flat like this, and it doesn't wrap around. So this is not good for, let's say I'm typing on this thing and I want to suddenly watch something while I'm eating rice. I can't wrap this thing around. I have to take the iPad off. This is just to function as a keyboard. And I haven't fallen in love with it. And I was thinking along those lines, well, what if I got a keyboard like that, a keyboard case like that for the iPad mini? Would the keyboard case be too small? Would it be usable? Could I use it? So I started looking around for iPad cases for the iPad mini. And I don't know whether or not that makes sense. Because I have a case for the iPad, for the full-size iPad, and it is limited. It is too limited to work on. I try it from time to time and always come back to the MacBook. So do I spend $60 on a keyboard case for the iPad mini? I think there are a couple out there that where the backing, you can turn it around and fold it underneath so that it actually is both a keyboard and simply a case if you just want to look at the thing and not type on it. But would the keyboard be too small? Would it be good? Would it be a good keyboard? I don't know. And also, in addition to not knowing whether or not the keyboard would ergonomically work, I also don't know whether or not it makes sense to do at all. Should I just say mentally, because I've learned through this change in attitude that the key to managing your tech is mental, not tech. It's how you think about it, not what you buy. And so is the key mental thing here that I should just decide that I am just going to work on, when I work, I'm going to work on the MacBook. What are the chances that it is going to break catastrophically overnight? What are the chances? I don't think they're very good. And if they do, well, this will do it. Might not be the most comfortable thing in the world, but it will do it. So maybe the mental decision here is just, you're going to work on your MacBook. You're going to read on your Kindle, and you're going to do all the in-between stuff on your iPad. You're going to watch stuff when you're eating. You're going to watch YouTube videos and BookTube videos on your iPad. You're going to catch up on your emails when you're flat on your back in bed and your laptop is not with you. You're going to catch up on your emails on the iPad. It's going to be the interstitial device. But when you actually have to sit down and do work, it's going to be on your MacBook. If I categorically think that, then it doesn't make any sense to get a keyboard case for the iPad mini. I don't know. I'm still stuck on that productivity bug. But anyway, that is the me part. Always the most tedious part of your Irish Stew videos. So I'll wrap this up for now. I say this every time. I can't believe we're going to do this again. But you seem to enjoy them. So I will, if you enjoy them, I will keep doing them. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.